A quote urgent meeting has been called by hundreds of top U.S. admirals and generals by the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. We are also seeing jets being scrambled as well too in response to fighter jets entering U.S. air defense zones. So let's get into all the details here. Lots of big stuff going on. We also have an announcement from Trump as well too. He's in a meeting right now at the Oval Office. We will play some of that. Lots of big stuff, but check this out. It says that Pete Hegseth has ordered a rare urgent meeting of hundreds of generals and admirals, right? And top journalists, right? Jennifer Griffin, she was saying that, quote, I think we're going to war. She said she's never seen this, and I think we're going to war. You can see here it says Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has ordered hundreds of U.S. military generals and admirals to gather on short notice and without a stated reason at a Marine Corps base in Virginia next week, sowing confusion and alarm after the Trump administration's firing of numerous senior leaders this year. It says a highly unusual directive was sent to virtually all of the military's top commanders worldwide, according to more than a dozen people familiar with this matter. The directive was issued earlier this week as a government shutdown looms and months after Hegseth's team at the Pentagon announced plans to undertake a sweeping consolidation of top military commands. It says in a statement Thursday, Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell affirmed that Hegseth, quote, will be addressing the senior military leaders early next week, but he offered no additional details. Parnell, a senior advisor to the defense secretary, voiced no concerns about the Washington Post reporting on the meeting scheduled for Tuesday in Quantico, Virginia. There are about 800 generals and admirals spread across the United States and dozens of other countries and time zones. Hegseth ordered, people familiar with the matter said, applies to all senior officers with the rank of brigadier general or above, or their Navy equivalent. It says serving in command positions and their top enlisted advisors. Typically, these officers each oversee hundreds or thousands of rank and file troops. It says top commanders in conflict zones and senior military leaders stationed throughout Europe, the Middle East, and the Asian Pacific region are among those expected to attend the meeting. All right, so this is a global meeting of top generals and admirals. All right, it's very serious from the Middle East, Europe, and Asia. They are getting people to travel all the way to Virginia for this. Right, this is not normal. This is not typical, and this is actually very short notice, even though it's Tuesday. All right, so 4 days away. This is very short notice for these generals and the staff to be here. So it must be something critical, urgent, and important. All right, and we could be on the verge of a big announcement. You can see here it says that, quote, all general officers in command grade 07 through 010 and their general officer senior enlisted advisors are directed to attend within operational constraints. It says the order states, according to one person who saw a copy, 07 through 010 refers to the military's classification for all generals and admirals. None of the people who spoke to the Post could recall a defense secretary ever ordering so many of the military's generals and admirals to assemble like this. Several said it raised security concerns. People are very concerned. They have no idea what it means, one person said. Yeah, that's something that I thought about too. It is concerning to have them all together like this, but it must be some type of announcement where they don't want to be sending telecommunications that can potentially be intercepted, right? So it must be something big where they want to have this announcement in person with all of these generals on the same page coordinating the same plan. All right, and they don't want it to be intercepted. They don't want it to get into low level hands where it could potentially be leaked. And there's already information leaking about the meeting already, right? So this is most likely why they're ordering only top and senior officials and advisors to show up to this meeting so they can account for, look, there was only a few hundred people here that know this information in the entire world. So if any of this gets out, we should be able to track it down and figure out, and it shouldn't get out anyways. These are top generals. Hopefully not. But it must be something where they don't want the telecommunications to potentially be intercepted, all right? Because I can't think of a good reason to have all of these military personnel in one area. It is a security risk. If they were targeted in some way or fashion, it's a good way to knock out, hundreds of top generals in the U.S. military, okay? So probably something big being announced, a new strategy, a new plan, maybe a potential new war front is going to be announced with this, all right? We're going to get to this stream here with Trump in just a second. He's talking in the White House with the president of Turkey, Erdogan, and we're also going to get to fighter jets being scrambled as well too in just a second, but I wanted to finish off this article here because this is important. It says, others express frustration that many commanders stationed overseas will be required to attend the impromptu summit, with some questioning the wisdom in doing so. Quote, it will make the commands just diminish if something pops up. So it must be something big that is happening, all right? Says the Department of Defense possesses highly secure video conferencing technology that enables military officials, regardless of their location, to discuss sensitive matters with the White House, the Pentagon, or both. Another person said ordering hundreds of military leaders to appear in the same location is not how it's done. So that's why it's weird. It's out of the ordinary. It's an urgent meeting. They're only giving them a few days as well to even get there, all right? Some of these flights take a full day or two just to get over here. So they're going to have to leave very quickly, urgently. And they do have these secure back channels, but it must be something else. It must be something big where they want to talk to everyone at the same time and make a big, drastic announcement. Okay, so hopefully it isn't a new war, but that's what people are worried about. And at the same time that this meeting is being called, we're also seeing fighter jets scrambled. You can see here U.S. fighter jets scrambled to intercept Russian warplanes near Alaska. It says U.S. fighter jets were scrambled Wednesday to identify and intercept 4 Russian warplanes near Alaska, the North American Aerospace Defense Command said in a statement. NORAD said 2 Russian Tu-95 long-range strategic bombers and 2 Su-35 fighter jets were flying in the Alaskan Air Defense Identification Zone. And it says here which is international airspace that abuts Canada and the U.S. sovereign airspace. Okay, so this technically wasn't U.S. airspace, but it was a U.S. air defense zone, and Russia has been notorious for entering this zone, every few months. It says NORAD responded Wednesday by sending an E-3 early warning and control aircraft along with 4 F-16s and 4 KC-135 tanker planes to positively identify and intercept the Russian aircraft in the Alaskan ADIZ zone. It says NORAD said Russian military aircraft in the ADIZ is common and not considered a threat, but it was the latest in a series of flights by Russian aircraft seen by many as testing the preparedness of U.S. and allied NATO nations. Right? They just entered Estonian airspace as well too just last week. It says it came as officials in Denmark continued to investigate still unattributed large drones that flew close to Copenhagen airport on Tuesday and Wednesday, disrupting traffic. Danish police have said the drones were operated by, quote, capable actors. European nations have been on alert amid Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine, and Russian drones were shot down by Polish and allied NATO warplanes after crossing into Polish airspace on September 9th. 10 days later, Estonia said several Russian fighter jets entered its airspace. The Russian planes entered the Alaskan Air Defense Identification Zone on Wednesday, about 1 month after a very similar incident, which also saw the U.S. scramble fighter jets for an interception. It says in late August, NORAD had it said it had detected and surveilled a Russian military reconnaissance aircraft inside the ADIZ after intercepting the same type of spy plane over the region 3 times in the preceding days. So this is relatively common, but it is about testing response times and seeing exactly what they're going to do and just kind of pushing buttons and keeping things keeping this at the forefront. Okay, this, it's about agitation, intimidation, and just making sure you have things ready to go, right? Just in case they could have done something, but they didn't this time, right? That's kind of the warning that countries send when they do things like this, these flyovers and enter airspace, right? Let's listen to Trump really quick. He's in a meeting with the president of Turkey. Let's listen to what he's saying really quick, and then we will talk more about it.
To have some help. They need some help, and I said I'd mention it. We appreciate it. So this is a tough man. This is a guy who's highly opinionated. Usually I don't like opinionated people, but I always like this one. But he's a tough one, and he does an amazing job in his country. And we've had tremendous relationships, both having to do with war and having to do with trade. And I guess today we're talking about both. I'd like to have him stop buying any oil from Russia while Russia continues this rampage against Ukraine. And they've been fighting. They've lost millions of lives already. And for what? For what? It's disgraceful. And I said yesterday, let it keep going because their economy is absolutely terrible right now. And I think it's a shame that they're doing that, killing a lot of people unnecessarily. 7,818 people were killed last week, mostly military people, their people, and Ukrainians. More Russians, actually, than Ukraine, a little bit more. But it's such a waste of human life. And so he ought to stop. Putin ought to stop. And with that, we'll get to a little bit of a discussion. We're going to make some great trade deals for both countries. We do a lot of business with Turkey. They build great products. They build beautiful, great products, really fantastic manufacturers. And we buy a lot from them, and they buy a lot from us. Would you have any questions, please?
You repeatedly called out Obama and Biden administrations for their stupid decisions. One example you gave was refusal to sell the Patriot missile defense systems to Turkey, which resulted in the expulsion of the country from the F-35 program. Now, you are known to be a great deal maker in Turkey. What can you do to undo the stupidity? Yes, CNN show.
CNN? Well, because you sounded like a nice guy, but CNN is fake news. But you sound like the real deal to me, so I'll answer the question. We're going to be discussing the Patriot system, which is the best system. We'll discuss that. We're going to discuss the F-35. We'll be discussing all of the things that you know about and that some of that you mentioned. And I think he'll be successful with buying the things he'd like to buy.
What concrete steps can you take?
Well, we'll have to see. We haven't even started yet. But I know he wants the F-35, and he's wanted that, and we're talking about that very seriously. And the F-16, we're in great shape. Certain other things he needed, as you know, and I'm going to see to it that we get that to him. He needs certain things, and we need certain things. And we're going to come to a conclusion. You'll know by the end of the day. Go ahead, please.
Mr. President.
Sayın Cumhurbaşkanı, siz Başkan Trump'ın ne kadar barış için çabalar gösterdiğini daha önce de söylemiş bir cumhurbaşkanısınız. Siz de bölgede birçok ülkeyle, birçok liderle görüşmeler, kontaklar kurabiliyorsunuz. Bu konuda birlikte nasıl çalışabilirsiniz gelecekte?
Buna inandığım için zaten bunları söylüyorum. Birlikte el ele bölgedeki bu sıkıntıları aşacağımıza da inanıyorum.
Mr. President, tariffs.
When are you planning to lift I haven't learned this language yet. What did he say?
The gentleman was asking, Mr. President, you have referred to President Trump's peace efforts, and you have also contact with many leaders in the region. And what do you think that you can do about this? And Mr. President has said that, yes, I believe in the peace efforts that President Trump is leading, and together we will be able to overcome the challenges in the region.
I think it's true. He's got tremendous influence in the region. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, when are you planning to lift CAATSA sanctions against Turkey?
Against sanctions against Turkey?
CAATSA.
Could be very soon.
Mr.
If we have a good meeting, almost immediately.
President Erdogan is removing tariffs on U.S. goods, and what impact it would be in U.S. production?
Where are you from?
Turkey.
I see. We have a lot of people from Turkey here. That's
We are
good. Because I like the
researchers
questions
here.
very much, actually. They're very nice questions. We'll see about tariffs. We're going to be talking about tariffs.
We already removed them.
Well, we're going to be talking about that.
Sanctions on Russia, even if not all NATO countries stop purchasing Russian oil?
We're going to be seeing about that. The NATO countries were disappointing in that regard, but they've been very amazing in other ways. They did, as you know, they went from 2% to 5% GDP, and that's a big step, and it's paid. I mean, they have the money there, and we're selling a tremendous amount of military equipment to NATO. We're selling. We're not giving like Biden did. We're selling it to NATO, and it's a lot. They're buying a lot, and I assume they're giving it to Ukraine. They could buy it for other reasons too, but I assume they're giving most of it to Ukraine. But they're buying highly sophisticated weaponry, and they're paying for it full price. And that's how we're involved. Biden gave $350 billion. Look, this war would have never started if I were president. If I were president, this war would never be happened. Would have never happened. Yeah.
Mr. President, I would like to ask about Gaza. Are you on the same page, Mr. Erdogan, for Palestine, Israel?
Well, I don't know his stance. I can't tell you about that. I just say that we want to get Gaza over with. I had a great meeting with the leaders of that area, of that region, generally speaking, the Middle East. We had a great meeting the other day at UNGA, as you know, and I think we're close to getting. We want to get the hostages back. I have to get the hostages back. We're the ones that got the hostages, all of them that we have now. But it looks like there are 20 living hostages and probably 38 or so dead hostages. Pretty sad. And the parents of those dead souls, those dead, mostly men, boys, in many cases like literally boys, they want those bodies back so badly, as much as though they were alive. And so we had a very good meeting with the representatives of the most powerful countries in the Middle East, and I think we're going to be close to a deal.
Any solution, Mr. President?
Mr. President, we've noticed that in the Ukrainian war and during the Israeli-Iran war, the airspace of the NATO countries is very fragile, and it needs to be stronger. And in that sense, Turkey being the second largest army in NATO, it needs to support its air force and air defense. How do you look at this issue in general as a NATO?
We support
because
them. I
it's
mean,
the eastern flank of
Yeah, we're in NATO, and you know, they're paying now 5% of GDP. Nobody thought that was possible, and they agreed to that 6 months ago when I was there. And the relationship is very good. The NATO countries, with us, is the strongest it's ever been. We used to complain that they're paying 2%, but they're not paying. The United States was paying almost everything. And now they're paying 5%, and they paid. And that's trillions of dollars. You know, we're talking about trillions of dollars. And they're spending that, giving that money to us, and we are giving them great defensive, you know, the Patriots and all of the different javelins, all the different missile systems and everything else that they want. But it's, it's trillions of dollars. So we appreciate that they did that. So they went from 2% to 5% of GDP, and that was something that nobody even would bring up. Biden should have brought it up a long time ago, because under Biden, we paid $350 billion, and all it did is make things worse. So we'll see how it goes.
Mr. President.
F-35s to Turkey, fighter jets, F-35s.
Yeah, we're talking about the fighter jets for Turkey. Yes, we are.
Are we going to see any steady you about the things that are going on in the Gaza, Palestine? Are we going to?
It could be today, yeah, it could be today. We have a very strong dialogue going on with Saudi Arabia, with, I would say, you have 4 or 5 real leaders that are being good. As you know, I met with Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE. We met with Jordan. The King of Jordan was there. We had a really great meeting. I think a lot was determined at that meeting. And I have to meet with Israel, and I have to do that also. They know what I want, and I think we can get that one done. I hope we can get it done. A lot of people are dying. But we want the hostages back. We don't want them back 1 this week, 1 and 2 months from now, 3 later, and like the way it's been going. We got them all back. We got a lot of them back. We got the American Alexander. We got the American hostages back. But we have now 20 plus 38 bodies, dead bodies, and we want them all back. And we want them back at one time.
President Erdogan will help to release the hostages?
Do I think what?
Do you think President Erdogan will help to release the hostages?
I don't know if he'll help in that. I don't really think we have. I don't think it'll be necessary in this case. I think we're going to be in a pretty good position. There are a lot of people that want that done. I met with great leaders. Look, you saw the people that were there, and great leaders. Egypt was also represented. We met with the leaders of that part of the world, and they want to see if they can get something done. And I'm going to have to tell Israel, let's go. We want to get the hostages back. Everybody wants to see that war over with, by the way. Everybody. So we're going to see what happens.
How do you see a joint initiative with President Erdogan to bring the President of Russia, Putin, and President Zelensky to the negotiating table?
Well, I can tell you that President Erdogan is very respected by both of them. Everybody respects Erdogan. They really respect Erdogan. I do. And I think he could have a big influence if he wants to. Right now, he's very neutral. He likes being neutral. So do I like being neutral. But he's somebody that if he got involved, the best thing he could do is not buy oil and gas from Russia. If he did that, that would be probably the best thing. He knows Putin like I know Putin. I thought Putin, I settled, as you know, 7 wars, and it's probably more than that if you really want to know the real facts, but 7 wars, and I thought this would be among the easier ones to settle. But I'm very disappointed in Putin. And he's been fighting hard, he's been fighting long, and they lost like 1 million soldiers. And with all of the heavy bombardment over the last 2 weeks, they've gained almost no land. Think of that. They've gained almost no land. And I'm not going to ever call anybody a paper tiger, but Russia spent millions and millions of dollars in bombs, missiles, ammunition, and lives, their lives. And they've gained virtually no land. I think it's time to stop. I really do.
All right, so you heard that there. Trump is saying that he wants this war to stop. He's making good points. This has been going on for years now. There really has not been any major advancements except these contested regions along the border. And I think maybe we could see a big announcement even related to this war, the Ukraine war, right? Maybe NATO is going to move into Ukraine. Right? Maybe they're going to take a more direct position in Ukraine and get more involved, right? There's multiple possibilities. It could be a move on China. It could be to defend Taiwan, right? It could be helping Israel to make a move on Iran or the surrounding country. So let me know what you guys think down below. What do you think this big urgent meeting is for? Trump's meeting with the president of Turkey, and we're seeing fighter jets scrambled. Lots of big stuff going on. Hope you guys are staying safe, staying prepared, staying stocked up. I hope you have big blessings for your life and your family, and I hope you have a big old Blessed day.